Yeah, interesting stuff. Speaking of opinions, man, the Hall of Fame and voters and baseball writers, the Hall of Fame is starting to narrow down. We're starting to figure out who's going to become a part of that Hall of Fame. And I actually had the opportunity to vote a little bit. We talked about Ryan Spader on Twitter, at Ace of Spader, if you want to follow him. He's also got a website, The Ace of Spader, SPAEDER.com, and he's got a ballot harvesting going on over there,
Ballot
if you will,
harvesting,
since we're talking
like
about. But he's only asking ex-Major League players and current Major League players, and he's got an interesting ballots up there. I finally put mine up there. I'm number 51. I had Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Todd Helton, Jeff Kent, Gary Sheffield, Billy Wagner, and I forgot to put Andrew Jones on there. I just loved Andrew Jones. But if you want to go check that out, that's great. As far as the players poll that he has going is very eerily similar to what's going on with the Major League Baseball writers. But I was just kind of curious, do you have any thoughts on what's going on with the Hall of Fame voting, as far as if we're talking about opinions and things like that?
I just wanted I missed what you
on
said.
Social media too.
I missed what you said about Andrew Jones.
Oh, I forgot to put him on my ballot for whatever reason. I sent off the email before I put Andrew Jones on there, because I'm actually, I read through, I made a comment with my ballot, and I kind of said, the guys that I voted for were players that I chose because I felt like they played like Hall of Famers and who had the numbers to back it up. And I really feel like Andrew Jones is one of those guys too, because I focus so much on what he did defensively, and there's really not a metric for that. I think that he helped. There were already Hall of Fame pitchers on that pitching staff with the Maddox, Glavine, Smoltz, guys like that. But, their numbers were enhanced by having a guy like Andrew Jones in center field. And I feel like Andrew Jones, after writing that statement saying guys that played like Hall of Famers, and then I looked at his numbers statistically, stolen bases, the RBIs, the home runs, he kind of adds up and puts him into that upper echelon of center fielders for me. So he would have been my seventh guy.
I would agree. And I have 2 points on that. One is that I mentioned this offline before, but Baseball Reference, which we've mentioned on here before, baseballreference.com has everybody's statistics. Tuttle's in there somewhere, I think. But baseballreference.com has all these things, and they have a Hall of Fame metric that takes out none, did you use steroids and that? There's no emotion, no anything like that. And the metric is so funny because I mentioned Barry Bonds is really high on that metric. Stan Musial has like the highest number, I think, but A-Rod's high on that. And the reason A-Rod is higher than Barry Bonds, in my opinion, is exactly your point, is he played defense. A-Rod was a shortstop and a third baseman, and he was a good defender, at least when he was playing in his prime. I mean, we hate A-Rod, that goes without saying, but the reason that he's higher on these metrics is exactly what you said, and if we relate that to Andrew Jones, let's be honest, guys that play defense, I mean, I'm looking at now in this game, like Mookie Betts. Mookie Betts is way more valuable than a lot of guys because of his defense. They move him around. He has a great arm. He can play defense. Every pitcher, myself included, love to have a good 9 behind him or a good 8 behind him. And we've talked about, Maldonado all the time, like the tools of ignorance. I mean, the guy can bat 180 with 20 home runs, and guess what? He's one of the most valuable guys on the team. So you have a great catcher and a great defense, and guess what? That elevates, all of your numbers and your team. And I think that, obviously the metrics will bear that out. But guys that have played defense and had good offensive numbers are certainly higher. And I think that's why Pudge Rodriguez, and I can think of all these other guys that were significantly better because they played offense and defense. And I think Andrew Jones is certainly in that category. And then the second point I wanted to make on that was Aaron Rodgers made a big he didn't make the stink this week, but a writer came out.
This is really an interesting story.
And this relates to what we're talking about, the Hall of Fame. This Hub Arkosh guy came out and said, and what everybody commented on was, anyway, he basically said he wasn't going to vote for Aaron Rodgers for MVP because he lied to the team and he was unvaccinated and he was disingenuous, and all his off-the-field stuff means that he's not going to get my MVP vote. But the criticism was, and the feedback was, that's what people do. They just don't say it out loud. And look at Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens. Is this sound familiar? Like, now Barry Bonds is trending at like 80% because it's the 10th year. And now people are like, all right, we punished him long enough. So the writers know that they're punishing these guys,
Power.
but they also want to. They know that the Hall of Fame would be different without Barry Bonds or maybe Roger Clemens or maybe Curt Schilling or whatever your opinion is. And our baseball writer came out and said, "Look, I will vote for Curt Schilling, not because he's a political idiot, but because of what he did on the baseball field."
Idiot.
Oh, and that was the other metric. Gosh, jumping all over. But that was the other metric in that Baseball Reference Hall of Fame number was postseason got rated higher too, which is why Schilling has a good number in there.
That's
so if you performed well in the postseason, A-Rod had a lot of postseason at bats, more than Barry Bonds, right? Because Giants versus, I know. I'm just using A-Rod as the metric based on no emotion, just the numbers. We know
it falls into that category too for me because I actually wrote it in a part of my commentary that I had on the thing. I didn't vote for Alex Rodriguez. I probably, I don't know if I ever should or ever will, but it's personal for me.
Are you punishing him, Blum, or are you punishing him?
I'm not punishing him because I don't actually have a vote, but in my own mind, yeah, I'm trying to suppress the idea that he's a Hall of Famer. And part of what pisses me off about Alex Rodriguez is I played against the guy when he was not on steroids, and the dude was a freaking beast.
Yeah, he was awesome.
I loved everything about his game. I thought he was a freak.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden he did that, and I was like, dude, he just pissed away every idea I ever had of him.
Right.
Because he did the steroids and did it,
Well, he was also a jerk. I mean, we've talked about Lou Piniella on here before. Like, you know what? Lou Piniella didn't do steroids, but he's a jerk, right?
Isn't that what Hub Koresh or whatever that guy's name
Hub
was?
Arkash,
That's what he said about Aaron Rodgers. He goes, he's a bully, he's a jerk, I don't like the guy, nobody likes him.
Right.
And Aaron Rodgers is like, I've never met the guy.
Yeah.
How does he know who I am or what I am?
Exactly. And so
judging him off of vaccination, I mean, that goes back to our previous conversation.
That's right.
Unless you have the conversation and understand where he's coming from, or maybe, a liability he has physically with that, I don't know. There could be an infinite amount of excuses, but judging him on the fact that he didn't take a vaccination and maybe, he jacked around the rules a little bit, judging a person off of that after not knowing the guy is kind of brutal, and it skews the vote. And I think that's kind of what you're getting at. What you crushed when you were just talking is, we have humans voting for humans.
Yep.
And if you can't go the Baseball Reference way and draw that line and make it just strictly what's on field, the human element's going to be involved.
Right. And we all know the human element is involved. It's just like I said, the reason that Hub Arkash got a lot of heat is he said it out loud. And I will say, and I wasn't intending on talking about Aaron Rodgers, but I think it relates to exactly what we're talking about with these Hall of Fame votes as we watch. January 25th is the deadline for this year, and this is Barry Bonds' last year, and he's trending at 80%. Either the writers feel like they punished him long enough, or all along they knew he was a Hall of Famer, and now it's just going to – the challenge I have with that is, with Barry Bonds getting in, if he finally gets in with the steroids thing, kind of now all of a sudden it's like, all right, maybe A-Rod does get in because they know his numbers are there anyway. It'll be interesting. It's not a slippery slope. I've said this before. I think Barry Bonds is part of the game and part of the lore, and he was a fantastic player. And people think it's a crummy argument to say he was a Hall of Famer before he did steroids. I mean, based on what you just said, A-Rod was a Hall of Famer before he did steroids too. Yep. But, it'll be really interesting. As you said, humans are voting for humans. And I do think there must be some, look at Andy Pettitte. He apologized. Andy Pettitte, of all guys, I played against him. Really Christian guy, family guy, just a mild guy. And he came out and said, yep, I did steroids. I was like, that guy did steroids? Like, out of all the people, I would be like, no way. And he said, look, I was injured. I wanted to come back. He apologized. Nobody ever brings him up. And nobody crushes that guy ever, because we all are looking for
humility.
That's right. You show humility, and we all look for people to apologize and be contrite. You're like, yeah. So anyway, so we know that those guys are getting punished, but I think it was really interesting this week how the NFL tied into exactly what we're talking about with the Hall of Fame votes, because we know that these writers, these old crotchety writers, we've talked about analytics, and scouts are old crotchety guys too, these, oh, well, this guy doesn't look like this guy and he doesn't do that. Some of the, we have to, they're human, right? They're human. And you're holding grudges this year. That's kind of that's your MO.
That's my New Year's resolution. Hold grudge.
Yeah, there you go. Grudge. That's your word. Mine's positive and yours is grudge or grumpy or whatever. But anyway, I just think we're all human, but I think you hit the nail on the head with what you said, which is, these are humans voting for humans. It's really interesting right now, as you mentioned, your Hall of Fame ballot. and how things are trending. But I just, it's weird all along. I just thought Barry Bonds would get in, and now he's trending that way. It'd be really interesting if he wasn't, if he had to get voted in by the committee. And,
oh man.
Anyway, it's a really unusual circumstance, but I have a feeling he's going to get in this year. And that means, I don't know, is Clemens, did you see what he's trending at? Is he going to get in too?
I did. So as far as the players are concerned, the only two players that would be voted into the Hall of Fame, according to Ryan Spader's retired and current Major League Baseball players voting, the only two players that would get in would be Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens.
Yeah. And that's because this is their 10th year on the ballot. I mean, is this so predictable though? Jeez.
It is. It is. And I'd have to pull up I think it's Rob Thibodeau. There's a guy on Twitter that has
that's what you're saying, yeah.
That has his own. He's actually doing the ballots from the baseball writers, which is really it's a fascinating and interesting read because he does such a good job.
It's like watching the vote on if you ever watch the presidential election, they get that guy with the algorithm like these are the counties and then this
projecting.
So Thibodeau's that guy for the all right, this is the writers and the Northeast writers are saying this and they're trending in this way and now he's trending in this, right? Isn't it the same kind of? It's an algorithm. It's not exact science, but.
Yeah, so it's Ryan Thibodeau. Yeah. I apologize, but as far as he's concerned, or as far as the writers are concerned, it's David Ortiz, Barry Bonds, and Roger Clemens as it stands today of April 7th. I mean,
April.
January
Holy smokes.
7th.
You've held grudges for 4 months already. Jeez.
Yeah, but those three guys are would qualify to get voted in, so it's kind of interesting. God damn it.
That's all right. We have a producer. We have a producer, and
yeah.
You can edit that out. It's funny because we've had this Hall of Fame discussion now for the last 2 or 3 podcasts, and Ortiz was on our list to get in. I said Bonds should get in. Clemens is still iffy for me because he's not contrite, but now he's on Twitter, so maybe we should vote him in. But I mean, I'm joking, but this is what we kind of thought from a trend line perspective. Schilling.
Yeah.
Schilling
but
has.
You're right. You called it.
Yeah, but Schilling has another year or 2, right? Or is this his last year as well?
Oh, I haven't investigated.
But
that,
I think he has another year. That's what I'm saying. I think I think they're just trending in different directions. But anyway, I don't mean to put you on the spot. You're looking at the internet. I have the computer right in front of me. I could do the same thing. But I think it's trending for all of us.
See what years they are on it. It'd be a lot more typing for me. Yeah, it's kind of funny. I thought it was kind of funny that we're seeing that late push for Roger Clemens to get in the Hall of Fame. And, their numbers, obviously, if we just went strictly on numbers, he's definitely getting it. 7-time Cy Young Award winner. But it's kind of interesting, after the Larry Walker, Tim Raines situation online with social media kind of pushing those guys to get voted in, and they eventually got voted in. Mm-hmm. I think it's kind of interesting to see Roger Clemens get out there. It's kind of interesting to see maybe getting that, that fan base pushing in the right direction to continue him and trending towards that Hall of Fame bid. But he's definitely got the numbers to get in. But again, it comes down to humans being human, and I think that might be the theme of this podcast for us is humans being human. It's egos, it's ideas, it's opinions, it's bias. I mean, there's so much going on. All right, welcome back. We appreciate our sponsors, and we appreciate you getting through that to listen more about this. And we actually have an update. During that break, Tuttle did some homework and got online, and we got a little update on Curt Schilling's status on the Hall of Fame ballot.
Well, the internet is so amazingly easy. I wish we had this when I was in college. Of course, I needed to go to class.
Could you imagine
probably.
How much better we would be? Such better students.
I would have been a much better student. I'm going to go with that.
Been at least a C+ student.
I'm going to stick with that story. That sounds good. Yep, I would have been a better student. Mom, are you listening to this? So Curt Schilling last year got 71.1% of the vote for the Hall of Fame, and it was his 9th year of eligibility. He did not get in, so he has to be removed from the ballot. He just doesn't want to be on the ballot this year. The funny thing is, he's been getting written in, and I think he's still trending in there. People are still voting for him, but he, he's a very politically motivated guy, and he just thought, hey, take me off the ballot for my 10th year, because if I couldn't get in last year, when I'm only up against Clemens and Bonds essentially as my peers,
he's even had enough of himself.
Yeah, that's right. There you go. That's a great way to say it. So, yeah, 71.1. So this is his last year as well. So it'll be really interesting. We have Ortiz, Bonds, Clemens. And then potentially Schilling and Scott Rowland is trending pretty well too. So it'll be interesting to see how this class goes, and be really interesting for Scott Rowland to get in. If only 5 guys get in, and you go in with Ortiz, Bonds, Clemens, Schilling, and Rowland, who doesn't have any sort of PED attachment to him, be like, all right. He'd be the third, the odd man out there. It'd be like, all right, great, yeah. But it would be a fun class to go in with. I mean,
oh my gosh, yeah, it would be a really fun class. I mean, some of those speeches would be highly entertaining. You know what's crazy about Curt Schilling is last year he finished at 72, just over 72%.
Oh, I thought it was 71.1. Yeah.
Yeah, well, according to Ryan Thibodeau's website, I went back and looked at last year's final standings, and he was at 72%.
Wow, he was close.
And then this year he's at 57.4.
See,
so he's taken a big slide backwards, man.
Maybe because he has to be taken off the ballot. I mean, they have to write him in or something. I don't know what the ballot looks like. You're not a voter either. But if they took him off,
writers being human, they probably said, "All right, screw you," and just basically left him off. So I'm sure that probably influenced it a little bit. Hey, dude.
Yeah, go ahead. I was just gonna finish one. The odd thing is, he's so. Well, anyway, he's so politically motivated. Like, he asked to be taken off. He won't get in this year, and then he'll just spend the rest of his life saying, "Hey, I asked to be taken off. I can't believe I didn't get in." Like, the conversations are just, it's just too much. The Hall of Fame, you talked about humility earlier, and then we'll transition. I just, I mean, the numbers are the numbers. They are what they are. You got your number retired in your high school, and I was elected into my high school Hall of Fame. It wasn't something that I campaigned really hard for. It was something that just happened kind of.
You were that good.
Ethereally. I mean, I don't even know if I was that good. It was just something that people felt the need to, recognize, which is great. I mean, it's not something you need to campaign for. I mean, I'm sure it was a great day. We've talked about that, last year or 2 years ago. But, I mean, it's not something you need to campaign for. If you need to campaign for it, then, you should probably pack it in and go elsewhere.
You heard it here. If you got a campaign for your Hall of Fame, bid by yourself and try and push it, and then maybe you don't deserve it.
Bingo.
I'm with you on that.
So if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe and hit the bell so you can get notified when we post new videos.